Thank you, everyone, and welcome to this session. Really good of you to take the time to come and listen to me. We're going to talk about today light bulb moments, and I'll explain a little bit about what a light bulb moment is and why that is very precious to me and very central to what I do as an early years and at Anglia International School. So I'll tell you a little bit. Hold on, I'm going to get clicking. I'll tell you a little bit first about myself. My name is Ruth Hanson. I am the head of campus at Anglia International Preschool in Tai Tam. I've been here in Hong Kong for 3 years. It's the beginning of my 3rd year. Prior to that, I was with Anglia in Shanghai in our British International School in Puxi. So I've been with Anglia a long time, so I know quite a lot about the company and about the company worldwide. So happy to talk to any of you about that after the session. But it is my privilege at the moment to be working for Anglia International School in Tai Tam. And it's a wonderful school. Both preschools have been open for over 3 years, and they're really quite special places. So this is Tai Tam and Sai Kung. We have 2 campuses. I'll just give you a little context so you know where I'm coming from and where we are. Our first campus, Sai Kung, is placed in Sai Kung. It's a beautiful campus, really well located for Clearwater Bay, Hang Hao, lots of families around TKO and Lohas Park and that area, but a beautiful campus right on the water's edge in Sai Kung, so beautiful windows. And then Tai Tam, again, we're really fortunate to be in the Tai Tam Country Park. We love going up on the roof in our school. It's a beautiful, beautiful, bright and light early years campus, and again, really well positioned for families around the south of the island, but also only a 15-minute drive from North Point. So I just want to give you a little snippet of our schools, because there are so many schools in Hong Kong with beautiful premises, and I always like to have a good little nose around them. So I'm just going to give you a little peek into our campuses and what they look like, and hopefully I'll give you a little flavour of how they feel. So this, for example, some pictures from our upper kindergarten. So that's our 5 and 6-year-olds. Again, light, spacious, and what you will see is that resources are always open and accessible to children. Then we have our lower kindergarten, our children who are 4 turning 5 years of age. Again, bright, spacious, lots of room for the children to move and walk and to make choices about where they want to learn and how they want to learn. We have what we call, if you visit our campus, we often talk about big, busy learning. And it's what we mean by it, are large open spaces which encourage collaboration and negotiation. So children will always have their base classroom, that home classroom that's special to them, but then we always invite them to come and spend time in the large collaborative spaces where they mix with children from other classes, where they have to negotiate, where they have to take turns, all those tricky things. But it's a great space to develop social skills. Welcome. Thank you very much. So again, you'll notice it's bright, it's spacious, it's warm, aesthetically. It's a place that I would like to go to and do every day. And then for our youngest children, our nursery suite, when children are 3 turning 4, again, it's getting that right balance of care and education. And that's so important for our youngest children to feel really valued and cared for. So again, we have the open spaces, resources that are accessible, but actually making sure there's enough little nooks and crannies where children can kind of feel really safe and comfortable. So that's a few pictures about our school and what it looks like. And then our PE space, we're really fortunate to have outside space, to have PE spaces that are spacious and allow us to help to support children's gross motor development. We have a lovely garden space that surrounds the Sai Kung, and then we're up on the roof in Tai Tam, so it's a lovely space as well. But what are these light bulb moments? Well, as I was saying, it's the best part of my job. It's the part when all of a sudden the penny drops. And I don't know about you, but I'm sure we can all think of light bulb moments when all of a sudden something just made sense. You're wrangling with something, and all of a sudden, I see what you were talking about. And young children, they develop and grow so much in the first 5 years of life. And they are having these light bulb moments all the time. And I would say that what's really important at North Anglia is that we want to make sure we create the right conditions around the child that help them to flourish and have all these light bulb moments when all of a sudden something connects and they understand something for the first time. And we often call it a light bulb moment or a wow moment. And often that's what we want to record and say, you've done that for the first time. You've understood that for the first time. And you can't help but be kind of filled with joy when you see the pride and the joy that children have. And I often talk about it a little bit like a jigsaw. If you've ever seen a child doing a jigsaw, and it's quite random the way they would do it. They'll pick it up, and they'll just, move the piece until they think it's going to fit. Then they'll try another piece and another piece. And for young children, life is a little bit like that. They don't necessarily look too much at the piece they're trying to put in, but they'll just try. They'll just persevere, and they'll try and get the right piece that fits in the jigsaw. And when they're learning, children are in the right environment, experiencing playing, exercising, practicing skills until the penny drops and they understand something for the first time. So it's all the pieces coming together, and all of a sudden a light bulb switches on for them. So what I'm going to talk about is some of the aspects that we place in our preschools to encourage and nurture so that every child is daily experiencing wow moments, light bulb moments. But also, really importantly, that the adults around them are noticing. Because children will have them anyway. Children are curious, they are wonderful, they are resourceful, they are learning all the time about the world around them. But as adults, how much do we notice when something is learned for the first time at this moment? And that's where a great teacher steps in, or maybe sometimes steps back. When a child understands something for the first time, what do you do next? So I'm going to hand you over to a few of our teachers who will just explain their favourite light bulb moments this year and help you to put it in a little bit of context for you.
My light bulb moment this year was watching one of the children in my class make the students learn the language she was using today. So, for example, comparing two sets of objects that use playing and saying that they have equal amounts, or saying there are more cars here or there are less toys over there.
Actually, let's go back to the next one.
My light bulb moment from this year is after a short conversation about time, a child in the class who has never heard about time before was found the clock, walked the clock, and showed me this letter is 1 hour until lunchtime, and she was right.
A wow moment that sticks in my head when we were using concrete objects to explore the number. So we were using data to try and pick a part number and understand the tens and the ones. And there was one child who just couldn't get it. We looked at it different ways, we looked at different apparatus, and he just still couldn't quite get there. This child's quite an independent child, so I thought I'd leave him with some examples and then try and figure it out himself. I went away to go and help with another child, and then he had a big tap on my shoulder and a huge smile, and I think I've got it! So we went over and he showed me lots of examples. He was very like, this is so easy now, I don't understand why I do it. So it's a really big moment.
Just some of the light bulb moments our teachers have, and they do have them every day, or at least they notice them every day. Now, here's one light bulb moment that sticks in my mind, and it does repeatedly. I have that wonderful, working with young children, I have that wonderful privilege of helping children learn to read. Now, I don't know how much involvement you've had with children learning to read, but often we start off with phonics. Now, phonics is very abstract, and as a teacher, you're teaching phonics and you're trying to make it as fun and as interesting as you're teaching all the different sounds and the shapes and the actions, and the children will happily go along with you because it's songs and it's movement, which they love. But often it doesn't make sense to them. For a long time, they're learning the sounds, they're learning the actions, but it doesn't make sense. They haven't made the connection. But the great part is when all of a sudden a child does go cat, and they hear the word cat. And I know it sounds so simple to us, but for months, children will go through that process, go, and they just hear the they don't hear the dog. Or they just see that, but they don't hear the sun. But all of a sudden, when a child hears sun, and they hear the word, all of a sudden, it is like a new world opening up to them. And it is exciting. It's so simple to us as adults. Yet when a child learns that skill of being able to decode, it is a fantastic moment and probably one of my favorite moments as a teacher, because it is so empowering. And I don't know if you have young children, but when you do, and this penny drops for them, all of a sudden, any word that they see, they start going through. And any word they see or print on bag or in the shops that you're walking through, they will start doing it because they have been empowered and they've learned a new skill, and now they can access the world that they haven't been able to do before that day. So it's very important. Now, how do we ensure that every child shines? So there are a few things that we do as a part of a teaching team in North Anglia that we want to make sure that's embedded in our practice so that every child experiences it every day. So how do we make sure that children are captivated, that they want to learn, that they're excited, that they're intrigued, inquisitive, that they will ask lots of questions, and that they want to find out more? How do we do that? There's a lot of things to do, as well as make sure we keep them safe. But it's about creating an environment that facilitates all of that. And the interactions that the adults, the carers, and the teachers have with the children inspire and encourage all of those things. Every day, it becomes part of the life of the school. Being captivated, wanting to learn, being inquisitive, all of these things are encouraged, not ignored. And there are 5 aspects that I'm just going to focus on. There are probably lots of things that we can do. And as we get to know more individual children, we can focus on knowing individually what is it that makes that child's light switch. But the 5 kind of general aspects that we would look at developing is personalised learning, a balanced approach, open-ended learning, which I'll explain a little bit more about, characteristics of effective learning, which sounds very highfalutin, but actually it's just about having a go, and the whole child, which again is very important. So I'll just go through those aspects one at a time. So personalised learning. For me, this is about knowing your child, understanding your child and what is going to help them have those light bulb moments. Knowing where they are in their development and their learning and what they have to do next. Where's their next step in their mathematical understanding, in their linguistic development. We follow the early years foundation stage, which is a great curriculum and a framework, but it only comes alive if we know your children and we know how to marry up both of those. So making sure that your child is interested in wanting to learn, making it their own. We talk about STEAM, and you know that in North Anglia I hope you know, we have our partnership with MIT. So STEAM is something we really encourage. We want children to develop their scientific knowledge and technical and engineering and the arts and mathematics. But how do we do that with very young children? Surely that only happens in the secondary school. But if I give you an example, I was down in the K3 with our 5 and 6-year-olds, and there were 2 children who had been reading a story about a kite, and they were going to make their own kite. Simple activity, having lots of fun. I said, we were talking about it, and I said, well, what is it you really want? And they said, I want it to fly. I said, come on, let's make a kite. What are we going to use? So the children, they were encouraged to be resourceful and go and find the right resources. They had to find the materials. They had to figure out how to join the pieces together. And I did it in a supportive way, but making sure it was still their choices. We then said, come on, kite's ready. Welcome, please join. There's a couple of seats still. I'd love to see you, thank you. We finished making our first kites, and it was like, right, okay, fantastic. And the children were really pleased. They said, well, come on, it's now time to go up on the roof. Let's see if they fly. So we raced up to the roof, took our kites, threw them up in the air, and they fell, boom, straight back onto the floor. They didn't fly. We had chosen materials that were too heavy. They actually fell apart. So it just wasn't successful. But that was okay, because then we went back downstairs and we started the process all over again, making sure the children were making different choices, considering what were the lighter materials, which one was going to be taken by the wing. So even at a very young age, you're finding out what interests those children until we had that kind of light bulb moment where they made the right choices about their materials, fixed them together securely, and then we could let them fly on the roof. And the final one here for personalised, sorry, I'll watch the time, is the zone of proximal development. And that's what I mentioned earlier on. It's about finding out where your child is in their learning and development and what's the next stage. Where's the next reachable point then? Because if your child's here and your next learning development is here, but actually what I put around them is here, that stretch is too far. And they will become frustrated and probably will leave the activity and walk away. So a good educator finds out where a child is and what's the next reach, what's the next step in their development. And with scaffolding, they achieve that. So that's always a very fine balance. It's not like, I'm teaching all of you, we're all going to do the same. That's not what it's about. It's about looking at the individual child. So I'll go through a bit quicker. A balanced approach, we look at child-initiated and adult, a good balance. Where adults are teaching explicit skills, but then giving the children plenty of opportunity to play. Play is such a wonderful activity because it allows children to play and exercise, to exercise all the skills that they're starting to develop and acquire as young children. To you and I, it could look like we're wasting time when they're playing in the water or the sand pit. But children are having time to practice and exercise new skills, and we don't want to rush that for them. And as an adult, it's knowing when to step in and extend or support knowledge, or sometimes it's knowing when to step back so you can observe more closely and then plan the next step for the children. So it's teaching skills and then giving the children the environment and the resources and the opportunity to try them out and to play with them. Open-ended learning, again, we're creating an environment that encourages investigation, exploration, risk-taking, problem-solving, critical thinking, all of these kind of buzzwords that you see around the place, but they're real. We want children to be able to ask questions, to investigate. I love teaching pre-nursery. Now, actually, in Thai Town, we start with 3-year-olds, but I love 2-year-olds. Some people look at it as if it's fearful, but I love it because they're so enthusiastic. They're everywhere. If you've got a 2-year-old, they're into everything. And you can ask a question to a group of 2-year-olds, or you would say, who wants to have a go? And they will all stand up. They will all want to have a go. Now, for some reason, as we go through school, that fades away. And we've got to make sure that doesn't fade away, because the 2-year-olds are more interested in having a go than worrying about whether they're actually going to get it right or wrong. And that's what we want to do. We want to have open-ended activities where all children are encouraged to explore and investigate. Some of our best moments of rich learning experiences happen around a muddy table or happen in the sand pit. It's not always about what's happening on the chalkboard. The prime areas of learning, again, are something that we really value in order for children to feel valued. So what we're always trying to promote in our interactions with children is that they matter, is that they do have agency over what they do and what they learn. So it develops their self-confidence, self-assurance, and self-worth. And that they feel valued. That's really important, that every child that comes into our school, and you'll want it for your own children, and you'll know as you visit nurseries that your child is valued. If you're not seeing that, I'd walk into another nursery, because you must make sure that your child's voice is heard and that your child is seen for their contributions. And the characteristics of effective learning is something that's in the early years foundation stage framework. So it's not your child will learn to count to 10 or your child will learn to write a letter, thank you, but it's about teaching them to be willing to have a go, create and explore. And what we're very focused on is developing the whole child, bringing it all together for the holistic development of your child. It's personalised. It should be balanced. They should have the freedom to move and choose. It's open-ended. It's not about always the end product, getting it right and wrong. It's about the learning process. And it's about developing those prime areas and those characteristics of effective characteristics. Who called it that? That's such a characteristics of effective. Basically, having a go. Don't lose that spirit. We don't want our children to lose that spirit of having a go, no matter what age they are. And so it's very important for all of us, as I'm sure it is across many schools, developing the whole child, the unique child. So at home, and I will wrap up now, we've all experienced this year, and if you haven't had a child in school, I think the one thing we've learned is education is pervasive. Learning doesn't just happen in a school building anymore. And what we want to nurture, and it is unmistakably for me true, that children are rich and resourceful, and learning is at their fingertips. And if you place them in the right environment, in a school building, in a playground, in your home, and the right environment that nurtures and nourishes questions and having a go and being inquisitive, they will have numerous light bulb moments, riding a bike, potty training, making your own breakfast. All these simple things that we take for granted are first moments for every child. And we share that with you through Seesaw and Tapestry. There is a real connection between the home and the school, because especially now more than ever, the partnership with school and home is vitally important. So thank you very much for listening. It's really a pleasure to speak to you all. My privilege to be working with such young children. But if you do have any more questions, North Anglia International has lots of information on the website, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and there's my email address as well. You're welcome to ask me. But do we have any questions now about something that I've said, or a question or query that you might have? No? Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to say one last thing, clap before you get up. Really important, if you've got a young child and you're considering their education, childhood is not a race to see how quickly your child can read, write and count. But it is a small, and I put in brackets, wonderful window of time to learn and develop at the pace that is right for each individual child. Earlier is not always better. So thank you very much for listening.